I've got a couple of releases of a figure called Tukuru to show off today. That's MB-16, and these are later releases. They aren't the original release. The original was a red one called MB-16, and these are MB-16 Tukuru variants. And of course, is the history with 52Toys, Beastbox, and Megabox figures. The follow-ups always have an additional lettering system or whatever to identify what that particular mold is. In this case, this is MB-16JPW. This was a Japanese exclusive release, and this one is MB-16WFBJ. This one is more colloquially known as Neon Tukuru, and it has UV markings. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And this one right here, a Japanese exclusive release, and I believe 52Toys had a license agreement not to sell this one outside of Japan. I'm not sure who or where they get a licensing agreement like that with. I mean, obviously they're not going to go to the country and say, hey, can we only sell it in Japan? But it did eventually make its way into some external markets on a very, very limited basis. In this case, this one made it to the US Amazon store. That's where I found it, and that's where I bought it. I've had this for, I don't know, maybe a couple of years or something like that. It's been a long time, and I'm just now coming around to getting this thing out of the box. I've been waiting a very long time to do a Tukuru review, and here we are. We're going to get into it. So for today's review, I'm going to do an unboxing of the Japanese release. This may be the first and only time you're going to see an unboxing for this specific Japanese release on a YouTube review video. We'll take a look at what comes inside the package and details of the package itself, of course. We'll definitely talk about some figure details. I'm going to do a transformation demo for both of these from box to cube mode and also vice versa. That's why I have this one set up as a cube. And then we'll wrap it up with a box grade and some closing comments for both of these. So let's jump right in. So with that, I'm going to grab my trusty Red Devil and we're going to pop the top on this. And of course, it's the case with most 52Toys, Beastbox, and Megabox machine cubes. It's pretty much just held open by a sticker tab. You just slide that open there, like so, and you have easy access to the contents of the package. Now, before we get into it here, we'll talk about some details in here. Obviously, you got a little window here showing the figure right front and center. And as I recall with my Neon Tukuru that I did buy a few years ago, because of the paint that's applied to these metal surfaces, they more or less want to try to protect it when they put it in the package. So what we're going to find when we crack this open is it's got some protective plastic sleeves over the side panels and that kind of thing. So we'll see that here in just a second. One thing I do want to note is that most of the releases, 3 of the 4, there have been 4 Tukurus, distinguish themselves with some custom decals. In the case of this one, it has some Japanese kanji symbols that go on the side panels here. That particular part I'm not going to apply during this review today, but I do intend to apply those stickers at some point in the future. And there again, this is the white version. Like I was saying, there are 4 releases. You have the original red one, that's MB-16. You have this white one, and again, MB-16WFBJ, if I remember right. No, I'm sorry, that's WFBJ. I have no idea where those letters came from. There's nothing in there that spells out neon or UV light or anything like that. So if anybody happens to know what WFBJ stands for, please let me know, because I have no freaking idea. Anyways, yes, so we got some beautiful foil stamping here, this kind of nice red foil stamping. More details about the figure here. It's all relatively basic. So we have what they call the normal mode, which is sort of essentially like a utilitarian robot that kind of has crab-like limbs and a silhouette. Then you have the box mode, of course. This particular figure is designed by MARUTTOYS, and we'll get into that a little bit later on in this review. This is the only figure they have designed for 52Toys. I don't know much about this particular designer, but I can tell you that he's Japanese. 52Toys has partnered with a few Japanese designers at various points throughout their product history or whatever. Yeah, they do have a long-standing history of partnering with other toy designers outside of their company. They produce so many different figure designs throughout a given year that obviously they can't handle all of that on their own. I think a lot of it is that they're really knowledgeable about the toy industry in general. They find particular designers that they like and they want to work with, and they just ask them to design something that'll work within the product line of their Transforming Cube series. So that's kind of where that comes from. MARUTTOYS is well known for a particular, well, essentially this particular style for geometric type robot figures. And honestly, what they intended to do for this particular figure release, I think this particular designer fit like a glove. Anyways, just to rattle off a few other Japanese designers that they've worked with off the top of my head. They have a long-standing partnership with Thunderbird Workshop. Thunderbird Workshop is responsible for some of the very best Beastbox releases they've ever done. They have designed the entire Beast Drive product line. That's the the Transforming Animal into Vehicles series that are model kits. They're partially assembled or whatever. And they've done a couple of the really significant birds. They did the original Parrot Echo Blaster, and they did the owl design starting with White Noise. Yeah, long-standing partnership with them. If you know the name Thunderbird Workshop, they do awesome figure designs. More recently, they also did the Alien Xenomorph design. I know that off the top of my head. Then you have Tsubashima Yuki. He has done all the Chinese mythological creatures. He started off with the Eastern Dragon, then he did the Chiron, and then he did Baihu. I can't remember what the turtle's called. I believe the name of the turtle is Jinwu, and there's also, can't remember the name of it, but it's essentially the Eastern version of a phoenix. I believe that's going to be the fifth and final one. So Tsubashima Yuki does all of those. And of course you got MARUTTOYS here. And also recently Tenseki Mas. He did the Plamawism machine cube thing. Basically this thing right here, that is something that he is apparently known for modeling cube-shaped industrial objects, I guess. They made a product out of that. He was the perfect guy to do that kind of thing. Anyways, ironically, something interesting that I'll just point out about this particular figure is, again, it's the only die-cast figure release that 5-Tooth Toys has ever done for any of their machine cube products. Now, Tsubashima Yuki, he's actually more well-known for his artisan metalwork. So he designs these neat little transforming metal objects. They're one-off design pieces. I think he gets commissioned. Basically, somebody will just buy one from him and he'll design it and produce that thing. He does not manufacture anything. He's literally a metal crafter. So I think it's just a little bit ironic that the one guy who's a metal worker, who isn't an actual toy designer, had no involvement with their one and only metal figure. So probably means absolutely nothing, but I just think that's interesting. But to that point, there again, this one is the only metal one that's ever been released, and boy, do you feel it with this box. I do not have a scale, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that the figure itself weighs 1 pound, and you could definitely feel it. This box feels like it's probably about 1.5 pounds, something like that. It's definitely heavier than a regular Beastbox. Now, as far as the figure itself, worth noting that the actual official name of this particular figure is the Megabox Tukuru Japan Limit White. So the acronym JPW, it's kind of obvious where that's coming from. All kinds of interesting stuff about the figure. Obviously, it comes with a box charger. You got these little welding torches here. We'll talk about that in a little bit, of course. Like I said, stickers for this specific figure. Not going to show that off today. I will show the stickers, though. Figure itself, of course. Oh, yeah, that's a bit of nostalgia. Old school Megabox logo. Those of you who have been collecting and know 5-Tooth Toys for a while know that a few years back, 5-Tooth Toys rebranded their Megabox line to Infinity Box. Still kind of remains a little bit of a mystery why they did that. Some people suspect that it's like a copyright issue or something like that. I don't really personally have a definitive answer for why they might have done that. All I can tell you for sure is that there has been some crossover within that brand change. So for example, the latest release of Tukuru is the yellow Chinese exclusive release, and that one is actually branded under the Infinity Box line. Come to think of it, I do recall that in a review I did some time ago of the Golden Dragon, that one was the first and possibly going to be the only release that was a crossover from the original Megabox line into Infinity Box. No, that's actually not the case. They did that obviously with this particular figure, and there may be more to come if they dip into the old Megabox line and continue reproducing them. I will say though that given that they have that change for established figures from the old Megabox line, that does lend itself towards the suggestion that maybe there was a copyright issue. That's my best guess. Anyways, yeah, this thing really does have some weight to it. Start off by saying inside the package here, yes, you definitely have some extras here. Got an old school catalog here. Now for Megabox and Infinity Box, sure this is not super disappointing or anything, but these figures do not come with character cards, so there's nothing to be shown there. I guess this is the instruction booklet. Pretty basic stuff. They show 15 steps for this particular figure. It is not a hard transformation at all. Now this precedes their newer rating system for level of difficulty for transformation. It's like a 5-star rating system, 5 being hardest, 1 being the easiest or whatever. What I would say with this particular figure is it's probably somewhere within a 2 or 3 if you were to follow that rating system. It's not hard to do at all. And of course, you have custom stickers. I'm going to get to these later, not today. I love these kanji symbols. You got all kinds. Oh, there we go. Old school 5-Tooth Toys logo. And you have MARUTTOYS. That's pretty cool. Caution graphics and things like that. I believe this sticker pack will let you mix and match however you want to go. It seems kind of redundant if you were going to add the battery icon, all 3 of these. I would imagine that you basically want to pick one of these and put it on your figure if you're going to do that. Yeah, so there's that. And again, got some catalogs and things. And here's a nice little treat. Like I was about to say, I have not seen one of these in a long time. Basically, this is their old school Box Charger 1.0 spring-loaded system. So here's the thing, you could buy a lot of these particular figures. Essentially, the semantic for how you use and interact with them is you stack all your box chargers together and you form a wall with them, and you can stack them many levels high. When a figure is inside of its box charger, it's not quite so easy to grab a hold of and get out. There's no spring-loaded system or anything like that, no mechanism within the box charger to allow you to get it out. What this does, if you fold it in half, it does have kind of a springiness to it. You put it behind the figure in the box charger, and then you can push on it and it'll pop out of the box charger. They quit including these. I'm not sure why. Maybe they figured out that nobody's ever using them. I don't know. Basically, this is something you do not find in modern Beastbox figures in their packaging. Yes, old school catalog. We don't need to get super deep into that, but I will say, just at a glance, here's basically every figure that you cannot get anymore. That's how old this catalog is. I'm pretty sure there's almost nothing on here that's available anymore, at retail anyways. I mean, this kind of thing, all of these, they are generally available on the aftermarket if you're kind of a late bloomer as far as collecting goes. As far as the figure itself, as is typical with any Beastbox figure, you basically have a lid on a custom form, kind of a bubble carton. Got a box charger, this is what I'm talking about. And again, if you're uninitiated to the box charger system, they stack together very easily. You can mix and match any way you want. You can stack them however many high. They come together very easy. And of course, those figures slide right in there, just like so. And we have the figure itself, as well as its little handheld welding torches. And this is what I was talking about with this figure being double wrapped, essentially, in a protective layer of plastic. What can I say? Painted objects are always at risk of getting chipped up or whatever, and that's especially true if it's painted metal. Coming straight out of the factory, I'm sure they want to make sure it's doubly protected. That is interesting. They have an external wrap here, but then they have this internal layer for the side panels, just to keep it nice and secure. Basically just wrapped around there, it's a one piece, and the same on the other side. Just gently pry that off, and there we go. Just expand him out all the way here, and obviously he comes partially folded up and partially transformed in the box. Coming straight out of the package, yes, you would need to extrude the wheels out. Get those limbs stretched out however you want to pose them. Rotate the limbs out like so. And there you go. So there again, like I mentioned before, there are essentially 3 variations plus the Neon Tukuru. The distinction between them, aside from their base color design, you got red, you got white and yellow, of course, is the fact that they come with custom stickers for each design, for each theme. So with the original, it's just kind of a utilitarian robot, you know, sticker design or whatever. Second one, obviously, is the Japanese version, this one right here, the kanji symbols. And for the Chinese release, they didn't really go national. They went more or less with kind of a utilitarian look. So you have some kind of boxy looking stickers that go on the side panels and that kind of thing. And of course, we have the unique one out of this series, which is the Neon Tukuru. What makes him unique from the others? He glows under UV light. Man, is that cool. I mean, those markings are essentially hidden. You know, obviously you could see them. They're a little bit of a different finish from the regular finish on the figure. But under UV light, you have that cool pattern that you can see all the way around the figure. I love that. It looks great even under regular lighting conditions, but man, you turn off the lights and then you have that. That is just so cool to me. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any others. I think this is the only UV reflective figure that I have in my collection. I do have one glow-in-the-dark figure. There's been a review for that way back when. It's one of the crabs. I believe that's a MB-16MD Meltdown, if I remember correctly. But yeah, that's a review from way back when that you can go back and take a look at if you want. Anyways, I just think that is so cool. So as far as this Japanese release here, I have heard paint on this one is a little bit higher quality than some of the other releases. Yeah, I'd say so. It seems to be like a little bit of a powder coat or whatever. I don't know if it's necessarily thicker. I mean, it is stark pure white. Looks totally clean. There's no hue to it or anything like that. It's just a totally neutral white. I will say up front that there is a little bit of a variation between the metal painted parts and the actual plastic. The plastic seems to be just a little bit of a brighter white. Not super much, but it's perceptible. So as far as figure details, one thing I'll point out, I didn't say before, is it's described as having 40 points of articulation, and that's probably probably essentially true. I mean, if you really want to go in there and do all the math, I'm not going to do it today, but let's just say with the leg alone, you've got 1, 2, essentially 3 points right there of articulation, and then you've got 4, 5 right here. So if you were counting 5 all the way around, that's 20 right there. Also on the limb, you have 1, you have 2, and you have 3, and then 4, I believe. Yeah, that's on a ball joint. So there's a 5th point of articulation here. Yeah, essentially all the way around here, you've already got 30 points of articulation. You got 2 here on the eye stalks. Wheels, of course, that's another set. I mean, you're already up to 36 right there. There again, you could go all the way around and do the math if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that today, but I'm going to take it for what it is. It's highly articulated, so it's a deceptively simple looking geometric figure, but within that, there's a lot of underlying complexity, and I'll definitely talk about that a little bit more in my box grade coming up later on. Anyways, as far as the paint job, I think it's a very nice high quality paint. The wheels do roll freely, so this little guy can definitely scoot along. Plastic seems high quality, really well built. The joints are nice and firm. It does have some ratchety functions here, so especially with the internal limbs there, you can even see how it's segmented like that. Joints are really nice and tight, nothing loose or janky. I mean, this is just a really, really well built figure. Claws here, they open and close freely, but they're not loose or anything like that. And you can pop in one of his little welding torches, super easy, just like that. I mean, it's a fun, simple, yet complex, interesting little figure. It has a lot of little posability and functionality. I mean, you might look at this and say, well, it's just like a crab robot or whatever. It can't do that much. But within that, there's so much personality and expressiveness that you could get out of this just because it's got so many points of articulation that it can move around with and be posed with and that kind of thing that you could really get a lot out of this if you wanted to. I mean, you can even raise it up a little bit if you want by bringing the limbs in and pulling them down. Kind of a crouch position, if you will, something like that. This is a fun, neat little figure. Another cool aspect I will say about this is these little welding guns. They can be stored away with the figure in box mode, so it has storage right on the figure, of course. Now, per the title of this review, I have to address the fact that I call this a really great desk toy, and it is. When you talk about desk toys, what I think of is something that is essentially a simple distraction, but looks nice sitting on a desk when it's just sitting there. It's something that's easy to manipulate. Maybe you're on hold waiting for a phone call or something like that. Something that somebody might come into your office and point at and take an interest in or whatever, and it becomes a talking point. It's just a nice, fun little object to have on your desk. Not too distracting, but definitely interesting. Yeah, and it also kind of works as an action figure too. So, I mean, if you were, say, a little kid who wanted something like this to play around with, it is absolutely a great toy for that kind of purpose. So a utilitarian robot it is in real life, and as its functionality as a fun little action figure or desk toy or whatever you want to use it for. So yeah, be that as it may, I think we can go ahead and roll right into a transformation demo. And again, it's a very simple transformation. First thing you might want to do is start compacting pieces where that makes sense. So the eye stalks there, they can just be folded back like so. Probably want to rotate the claws around to get them into position. These arms are eventually going to fold straight up. Now for the midsection here, that's just going to fold up and over and tuck inside the body like that. The side wheels, they're essentially going to compact up and fold up against the body. Something to note here is you get these little pegs here, peg and post type connection. They fit perfectly within the sides of the figure like that, so they'll compact up real nice. The wheels, we'll just want to slide those up, snap them into place, do that around all sides. Now the arms are going to get folded up. What'll happen is you've got these little slots here, they're going to fit inside that little tab right there. So you just want to make sure you pop this piece out to give them room to swing around, slide them around like so, and that'll come down into that position. Now these are going to have to fold straight on, so we just want to make sure we get the legs kind of folded straight up on the sides. That gives us enough clearance to be able to push this all the way down and in. Now, like I was saying before, there is storage for these welding torches. So something to take note is, I mean, it is a highly geometric figure. You pretty much just want to follow the geometry of what's going on here. And obviously, on the inside of the leg here, you've got this little hole here, but then there's a slot above it. Just kind of follow that outline from the welding gun, and you just want to line that up. I found that the easiest way to do this is really probably going to be to go ahead and something I'll just say real quick here is I do dig the fact that these guns are essentially matched with the color scheme of the figure. So you got a lot of interior gray panels and whatnot on this figure, and it's an exterior white shell. They did the same for the gun. Didn't have to do this in two separate plastic tones here, but no detail left unturned by 5.2 Toys. They capture the look and feel of a figure and design it very well from top to bottom. And what I was getting at is I think it's usually going to be a better idea to go ahead and attach these welding torches to one leg as you're getting ready to fold it up. Personally found it a little harder to do if it's compacted up already, so I would personally just go ahead and pop it on one side. And you just attach it like so. We'll do it on the other side, and you're basically just following the opposite sides here. The top part of the welding torch, that's going to be facing towards the exterior of the figure. Just line it up and attach it just like so. And then, yeah, you're essentially just going to want to collapse things up. Probably just want to do it one leg at a time. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to bring the leg up, then you're going to collapse it outward, and then slide it down like so. And then it'll fold into place. We'll do the same on the opposite side here. Bring that up, bring this piece around, and I'm getting the wheel out there a little bit. Collapse that in, and I'm just going to do it loosely on each side. And we'll do the same for these legs. Bring that up, collapse it in like so. Just to make sure we get these welding torches lined up on both sides here. Might take a minor little bit of adjustment to get them lined up here. Then you're just compressing all the sides up. Push it in, make sure all the panels are squeezed in. And there you go. You got a nice solid little cube here. Beautifully done box mode for sure. And of course, it'll fit right into its box charger. So again, not only is this a fantastic desk toy, it makes a great paperweight. All right, so yes, it's heavy, it's a great desk toy, and it's also a pretty darn good paperweight. So, moving on, we're going to show a transformation demo from its box mode back into, well, I almost said beast mode, but we can say utilitarian robot mode, I guess. There again, the transformation is very simple. They only show 15 steps in the official instructions. And really, for the most part, all you're doing is pulling parts away from the cube. So you can start with the side legs here. Just kind of get those up and over. And you can see these welding torches are still attached to the leg. So let's get that over. That pops right off, obviously. Get those slightly separated, I guess. And we'll just leave those in place for now so we can get the arms out. Just pull that out slightly, rotate them down, get the pinchers rotated over and around, pop that back into place. This piece will fold over and around onto the base here, just like so. You can bring the arms up. You can position them now or get to that later if you want. Position out the legs however you want. Get the wheels slid out. So we'll just pop that down like so. Got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the eye stalks will rotate up and out just like so. And that's pretty much it. Obviously, you would need to position the figure, make little adjustments here to get them stood up and that kind of thing. But other than that, I mean, it's basically transformed. Then you can attach his little welding torches as you see fit. Super simple. Rolls like a boss, of course. And it's one of my all-time favorite features is he does glow under UV light. That's pretty darn boss. And that's something else I forgot too, is there are actual glowing markers on top of the welding gun, so they kind of doubled up on Neon Tukuru here. And unfortunately, I have that one turned upside down. Like I said before with 5T Toys, no detail left out. That is great. You even have little UV markings on the tips of the welding torches. I mean, it's just, they do not skimp out on details. I love their figure designs and just kind of the overall quality they put into their product. I think that's just what you get from a little design shop that really cares about what they do, and they're damn good at it. Love it. I'm setting this up for a box grade, but one thing I want to point out real quick here, this is a minor flaw of this particular type of design, that being painted metal. The thing is with any kind of paint, no matter what, it's inherently going to be susceptible to possible chipping or that kind of thing. And that's especially true on metal surfaces because it's a harder surface and, you know, you come into a contact with something that is just more prone to damage, I think. You do get a little bit of that on this figure. I have had some chipping paint on here and I've handled this figure extremely carefully, but it's almost unavoidable. So what I would advise is if you're going to buy a Tukuru, just be sure to handle it very delicately. Little tanks of little action figures they may be, but they ain't Tonka trucks, so you just got to be careful with how you handle them is all. That is something else that's kind of been a little bit of an annoyance for this particular figure is the UV markings has gotten scratched up a little bit. Something to be aware of. Now it's time to give these heavyweights a geometric perfection to box grade. This is my rating system of 6 categories of 5 points each for a total score of anything from 0 to 30 points. What can I say? There's inherent charm in MARUTTOYS style, and you could pretty much consider this designed in the same way that Apple designs their own devices. At a glance, it's deceptively simplistic, but the design is friendly and engaging with quite a bit more underlying capability than you'd initially think. In other words, Tukuru is every bit the friendly little helper robot. 5 out of 5. In my opinion, a Beastbox or a Megabox really only needs a couple things to have good features. Among the checklist might be that it's fun to fiddle around with, it has an aesthetically pleasing box form that fits cleanly inside of its box charger, maybe a great color scheme or some great graphic applications, physical design cues or functionality that really sells the character or theme of the animal, vehicle, or whatever object it represents, or some gimmick or accessories that give it more playability. Tukuru checks the boxes on all of that. 5 out of 5. Transformation is fun to do and it's not difficult at all. Everything comes together logically. The only downside, if anything, is getting those welding torches seated correctly. They can be a little bit fiddly, but they do lock into position snugly and securely. 5 out of 5. The package advertises 40 points of articulation in it, and like I mentioned before, if you really wanted to count that off, that's essentially true. What's more important to me is, does the figure have the right articulation for what it needs to do? Tukuru is a unique figure design unto itself, so I think that question really comes down to its character. The only thing I'd question is, I've wondered if it should be able to turn or tilt its head. I do think that if it had that point of articulation, that'd compromise its sturdiness. In the end, for what it is, I greatly figure a solid heavy-duty design over another point of articulation, and to be honest, there's so much versatility in the legs I think you really can pose this thing however you want. 5 out of 5. Yes, Tukuru is the only metal Machine Cube 5.2 Toys has produced. It's heavy and it feels solid. It's an extremely well-built tank of a figure with sturdy parts, solid ratchety joints, and smoothly rolling wheels. This is absolutely a premium showpiece. However, the flagship feature of this figure is also a minor vice. Tukuru is made of painted metal. Paint chips, especially on metal surfaces. You really do need to handle this with care to avoid damaging its paint. In the case of my Neon Tukuru, somehow it has a bunch of scratched up UV markings, even though I've handled this thing extremely delicately. Metal they are, but Tonka trucks, they ain't. 4 out of 5. Circling back to the title of this video, yes, I do think Tukuru is a perfect desk toy. I'm not going to rehash what I've already said in this review, but I will say, as I've said before, the 5.2 Toys is inherently a design shop. It's easy to see that they saw MARUTTOYS work and had a particular vision for this type of toy that they could produce with that partnership, and the result is absolutely a fun little object that I'm really happy to have in my collection. 5 out of 5. And that brings the box grade total to 29 out of 30. So there's a long overdue look at 5.2 Toys' very unique one-off figure design, Tukuru. I'm really happy with mine. It looks like it's currently not available anywhere at retail, unfortunately, but I do hope 5.2 Toys will continue releasing new versions every so often. Or what would be even better is, why not recruit MARUTTOYS and design an all-new figure? I'd love to see what else he could do. Thanks for spending time with me. If you could spare a few seconds to leave a like, a comment, or share this with a friend, I'd really appreciate that. I've got a lot more content planned out for the next few months, so stick around. There's much more on the way. Have fun, and I'll catch you in the next one.